I think this particular session that we have right now will fit perfectly well with the other two sessions that we had just now. So, if the panel was all about subject matter leadership on customer intelligence, and Miko's expert playbook was all about executing from the front line, this session is really all about transformative leadership in the context of Martech, because it really this session really tries to bring it all together with the overarching people, organization, and leadership aspects of digital transformation. Because the big picture of Martech really is an amalgamation of marketing, technology, and management. These three disciplines, which were siloed till just a few years back, have definitely become inextricably linked now. Marketers have embraced technology. Technologists have embraced design and growth hacking principles. And I think it's really up to management and leadership to synthesize the two to ensure that the sum is greater than the parts. Now, going digital is already a huge, huge task in any organization. And I think we heard some of the previous speakers touch upon it, right? But doing so in an organization steeped with tradition and a century long history of excellence like AIA, and across so many countries where it's present, that is in another league altogether. And on that note, I'm really very, very pleased to introduce Prashant Agarwal to you. Prashant heads digital marketing for AIA Group, Asia's preeminent life insurance major, and one of the largest companies in Asia. A marketer, innovator, and connector, his industry agnostic career gives him multi domain knowledge and inter industry operability. His varied experience includes building corporate innovation labs, creating startup accelerators, building brands, and launching products. He's worked extensively in B2B and B2C environments across all channels, direct, retail, and digital. Prashant started his career as Unilever's youngest manager globally and has since worked within banking, insurance, and tech across India, USA, Singapore, and Hong Kong. He regularly serves on juries for awards and speaks at international forums on topics ranging from disruption to analytics masterclasses. He has an MBA from the Harvard Business School and is an exec at alum from Singularity, Darden IMD, OnCert, and IMA. Prashant, so thrilled to have you today, and a very, very, very warm welcome to you on the CDP Summit.
Thank you, Subra. That was a long introduction and nicer than I deserve. It's always a tough act to wrap up a conversation as cool as the one you guys are having. But Miko did most of the work for me because I think he made so many points that you and I can help just connect these thoughts together quickly and talk about what are the real human challenges of making all this happen and how do we get around those.
Absolutely, Prashant, in all my experience with organizations, succeeding in digital transformation that I have seen in the last decade, there has been one sort of consistent thread. I really feel that all those organizations were able to align the entire organization around shared vision and a shared set of goals, right? I think that really talks a lot to this convergence that I spoke of earlier, the convergence of marketing, technology, and management leadership. Has it been your experience as well? And if so, what is it that really brought this entire ecosystem together? I would really love to start off there.
The convergence is very true and it's very real. And the convergence comes from the customer, our real boss, right? The customers, everybody is boss and they decide. Now, once upon a time, people were actively guided to the choices they made, right? You showed them content, you held their hand, you walked them to a set of choices, and then hopefully they made the choice you wanted. That's gone. Consumers today have information overload. The items that therefore will cut through all that clutter for them are the ones that are going to connect. And for connecting, we need personalization. This personalization is really what drives this convergence, as you describe it, because the marketing elements, the technology that enables that personalization, and frankly, the leadership will and the management obsession to serve the customer better have to converge. Now, when you look at even the underpinning data, it supports this, right? So 80% of customers say they're more likely to buy from brands that provide personalized experiences. In a business like ours, insurance, we see while we are a very traditional sales driven organization, our sales processes are mostly offline. We see this very interesting reality that 90% of people in insurance end up buying life and health insurance, end up buying offline. But equally, 90% of people say they will research it online before they would talk to somebody to buy it offline. Now, therein is another convergence of online and offline. But for that online component of those 90%, they are no longer visiting a financial advisor saying the advisor will tell me what to do. They are expecting to do all their homework, have an opinion, have questions, and then have a very, very solid, involved conversation. Now, the marketing nudges they get, the technology that delivers it to them, the way they interpret that, it all has to come together to power that. We see more than 90% of shoppers have made purchases that have been influenced by personalized shopping cart recommendations. So whether it's the more traditional businesses on retail, but even places like ours, people want to know what are you even suggesting to me, and it has to be relevant to me. Right? People are not going to give you multiple chances. And as we see the wealth of access they have to information, people typically, at least in our business, touch an average of 5 touch points before they make a purchase for life and health insurance. And of these touch points, 4 are digital. Now, all this means that that convergence has to happen. Mass customization, personalization has to be at scale. And predicting what the customer will want is now the bare minimum. If you can't get that right, you're not even in the game.
Yeah.
Now, one also wants to connect with the right people at the right time in the right way, right? So if you are going to come around and poke around in my website, and let's face it, we are from this industry, so I can be more blunt about it. You must really be interested in life insurance if you're poking around the life insurance company's website. It's not the most exciting place to be in the online world, right? Now, if you're doing that, that suggests that you are very interested. If I can respond to you quickly, if I can figure out Subra is here, Subra seems to be looking up these 5 things, let me connect with Subra now. That's when the magic will happen. If I connect with Subra 3 weeks from now, I've already missed that opportunity, right? So we have to do a lot of that. Now, one of the things that we've seen, back to your convergence concept, the other thing that drove it in a way or hyper accelerated it was COVID. For all the horrible, horrible things that COVID has driven, it has forced companies like ours to transform digitally at speeds that even we didn't know was possible. Because our customer evolved with speeds they did not imagine possible. So whether it is people in China, the elderly people who have traditionally never bought online, we saw that they were going at rapid speeds doing online shopping because that was the only way they could get groceries in certain provinces for a period of time. So our customer evolved and we needed to evolve at the same time. So all of these things have resulted in this convergence becoming very real, very pervasive. And in fact, we've seen that Gartner reported out, I think, recently that more than a third of CMO budgets have started getting allocated to Martech because Martech is the mechanism for this convergence.
Prashant, you touched upon COVID, and I'm just really tempted to take a quick detour here.
Go for it.
What was the conversation like? I think for so many of us, it just sort of hit us suddenly out of the blue. So in times like these, as a leader, let's say March or maybe end of March, what sort of conversations were you having, and how were you really sort of trying to cut through all of this? I would really love to deep dive a little bit there and then sort of come back, because I think everybody in the audience would love to understand that a little better.
I think there are many, many conversations on many fronts. So let me take them separately. Team building. I have colleagues, some of them are even on this call, where we hired people sight unseen, right? Because we couldn't be in the same location to onboard them and bring them on because we knew that we have to make these shifts. But from a customer lens, starting with that, AIA is very clear that we are a purpose-driven company and our purpose is to help people lead healthier, longer, better lives. Now, that purpose has never been more relevant than what COVID created as circumstances. Uh, People who have been blessed to be safe and whose loved ones are fine are still dealing with very simple realities, like when your three children are being are needing to be homeschooled. That's not easy. Having a career, you have a, someone is having Zoom problems. The teachers need the help from the parents to come in and do extra support. This is not mentally easy for anyone to have adapted to. Second reality is that people have become more aware of their health related items than they've ever been. So during these times, we saw 50% spike in our markets for people who were searching for ways to remain healthy while being in lockdowns and at home and in quarantines. YouTube stats will show you big spikes in at home wellness and fitness exercise regimes and stuff like that. Now, from our perspective, and even insurance is a product, as people started conserving cash, uh, we saw across categories, people said, I will defer a purchase or I will not consider a purchase across many industries. Insurance, they actually were saying, I think I need more, right? Now, our model is face to face. So people are saying we need more protection, and my advisors can't be on the road to go make that happen. So we've had to recognize that our purpose has never meant more than it does. We have an accountability to not just serve our people, our customers from the products that we offer, but we also have to go well beyond that. We have to give people comfort. We have to give them peace of mind. We have to give them tangible tactical items. Now, that means we have to deliver them content that is relevant to them. We must know, what a Subra wants is different from what a Miko wants. You guys are at different ages, stages, you're in different locations, your requirements are completely different. If I can understand that, I can serve you both equally well. And I have to automate that. If I'm not, you can't do it manually at that scale. So it's been from a, it's been horrible for everybody. In that reality, from a business transformation lens, as is a cliched but oft repeated reality that never let a good crisis go waste. I think companies like us have been forced to confront that digital and analog are no longer either or. The only model that works is to bring them together. And I'm just incredibly proud of the way AI as a company has reacted and responded during this time. I'm very proud of the way our agents and advisors have really stepped up. They've gone out of their way to accommodate what customers need.
No, just thanks for taking the detour, and I think I can definitely vouch for it because I was sort of obviously interacting with you and team through the last year as well, and I really felt that the overall approach was incredibly positive and sort of how can we make this better for the customer. So yeah, I mean, thanks for taking the detour, but just sort of. Uh,
Anytime.
Coming back to the sort of convergence that we spoke of and
Mhm.
just deep into this a little bit, I think this convergence has also meant that you've had to create alignments between different teams and functions that probably
Right.
is hard to achieve, right? And I think if I were to really touch upon it, how do you align the creative marketer, if you will, and the coding nerd, right? At first glance, these are almost two different beasts, as wide apart as two professions could possibly be. So then, how do you make each one understand the essence of the other and make them effective together? Your thoughts there would be appreciated.
I love the characterization, the creative market and the coding nerd. I think my tech friends and your tech friends will kill you for that one. It
They like
really,
people. They love being called nerd.
it really is the question of the art and the science of marketing, really, right? When you look at the coding nerd versus the creative marketer, truth is that they are not binary anymore, right? Given the reality of the attention spans, and we all have heard of the limited attention spans of goldfish for 9 seconds, and consumers today have less than that. Eugene tells me that goldfish actually have more attention span than these reports concede. But irrespective of that, the message needs to cut through the clutter. and therefore it needs to be creative. You don't notice the mundane things anymore, right? If you ask me right now, what billboards, advertising have I walked past in getting from my train station to my office, I couldn't tell you. And I walk past that twice a day for days on end, right? Now, equally, it has to be delivered in a very effective manner, and it has to be very relevant to my need and the time I consume that message in. So, given all these parameters, tech is the only way to deliver this in a scalable manner. Now, this is where the coders come in, therefore, to design those tech enablers, but they also have the opportunity to be very creative in their own right so that the marketing itself becomes creative in the way it was delivered on the channel and the platforms. So the style and substance have converged. Now, again, Gartner, I think, indicates that by 2022, about 25% of the marketing departments will actually have dedicated behavioral scientists and ethnographers as part of their full-time staff. Completely makes sense because you will need the creative marketers will become more nerdy and the coding nerds will become more creative, and they need to, right? And this is where I think Martech comes in, right? And a lot of points that Miko was making were really relevant to the point I make now. Marketing functions have to become very data driven. They have to be, marketers now have to be technologically savvy. For me to say that's the coding guy's problem, it doesn't work anymore. I don't need to know how to code. I need to know what I need that code to do for me, right? In that process, solutions that are going to automate and enable will act as the glue that connects the creative marketer and the coding nerd together. Now, whether it's your solution, which we've been very upfront in the sessions that we've been working with you guys, or even other broad MarTech solutions, they all drive this convergence. They reduce that gap because they allow the creative marketer to be a coding nerd without knowing coding, and they allow the coding nerd to become a creative marketer without knowing marketing. And that is going to become supremely important. Now, solutions like you guys are not designed to be run by only experts. Experts get a different type of performance out of those solutions, but they're designed to enable people who are non-experts to punch well above their weight. So they have a dual purpose, and I think that's what we are going to see way more of. I believe that MarTech is going to become a very standard part of marketing, and everyone is going to be very focused on what their marketing stack looks like and how do they plug those gaps.
Well, it's a very, very valid point. And I think you place the onus to some extent on the technology that you adopt as well, which I think is actually a great way of, also putting it. And I think at least at Lemnisk, we've always been attempting to do that for sure, right? One other point, in fact, we heard Miko talk earlier about, and in one of the things he spoke of was, sort of have a always in beta kind of experimental mindset, right? And I've heard you in the past also asking the team to think big, swing big. And so as a leader, as a MarTech leader, how do you encourage a culture of experimentation? Because it also often brings with it the need to sort of develop a higher tolerance for failure. So how do you sort of balance these two out?
Look, the first, I tend to believe that it's a failure only if you fail to learn. Because if you learned something in the process, then it wasn't a failure. You got your money's worth, right? Now, in my belief, in the world we live in today, Subra, the cost of inaction way trumps the cost of failure.
Completely.
Okay. A mistake can be rectified. If you did nothing, you will be extinct and you deserve to be extinct. Right? So in that process, we believe that we have to, and all of us in different ways are leaders at the same time. We may be leading broader agendas or smaller agendas, but we have to embrace and celebrate the concept of learning. Now, this is where people like Miko got into this journey. They embraced it. They were comfortable that mistakes will be made along the way, and they're okay with it. And that's how it has to work. When I used to run direct marketing departments, I used to tell my creative directors that if some packages do not fail in A/B testing, it worries me a lot because that suggests that we didn't push our thinking far enough.
True.
If everything is working, that means we have been working with the sure shot bets. But the problem with sure shot bets is they give you 5%, 6%, 8%, 10% lifts. They don't give you 150% lifts. So if you want to unlock the next big value pool, you have to be prepared to swing for the fences. And every time you swing, you will not connect with the ball, right? So we have to be prepared to absorb that as part and parcel of the way. I think a culture of experimentation requires a culture of celebrating the learning that you get along the way.
Very bad.
If you have a boss at Unilever who's just said that don't make the exact same mistake twice, but as long as you're making mistakes, that's fine. That's the cost of learning. That's the cost of grooming you to run these big, broad agendas. And I think in that process, as Miko alluded in his constant beta mode, I think you have to do constant iteration. So don't get stuck there. Start with a hypothesis, build from there. Doesn't work, course correct and move on. And you've been a part of this as well. And in fact, let me bring in that element of the culture of experimentation. To me is a very big item on how I determine which partner to work with.
That's very bad. Yeah.
And let me connect the two dots for you because they're a little bit strange. To me, the choice of partner is a little bit determined more by the softer side of it. Okay, because let's face it, an awesome solution averagely implemented will give me a much lower return than an average solution awesomely implemented. So I look for people who do the leaders of those solution providers get it. Do they understand what they are in the business of doing? If you are selling me a solution per se, I'm suspicious. I need to understand, do you understand what are you trying to do for the customer? How do you see your solution driving that new generation of marketing? How will it make the consumer's job easier? How will it empower them? Now, if you get that, then we go on to determining what is your mechanism of onboarding, getting started, and educating us. Because if you're going to do that right, frankly, my risk of failure actually goes down. Or rather, it right shifts. I'll still have some failures, but I'll have failures on things that I should have had failures on. If my big failures were because I didn't onboard right, that's not called a failure. That's called stupidity on my part. So we have to get partners who get that and who are very committed to that, right? Because you can't see yourself as the guy who has to sell the solution. You have to see yourself as the guy who's going to make me successful, right? In that process, and I'm going to just call out an example of yourself. You have attended every one of the discussions we've had where we've looked at the use cases, we've looked at what worked, what didn't work, what have we learned, how are we course correcting, what are we going to do differently going out of that room. Now, honestly, as a solution designer, as a solution owner, as a CEO of the company, you don't need to do that. But the fact that you do is what gives us the comfort that you understand this culture of experimentation and that you are as committed as we are to learning from it. Right. So that's how we see this. It's a partnership. None of these things ever happen in isolation. We all band together and then we figure out how to make the magic happen.
No. Thanks a lot. And I think, as I said, for me also, it's not just about you as a customer or anybody as a customer. I guess it's more about passion and just the ability to make people successful with something that you're building. And I think that just makes it so easy to do many of these things that you referred to. But really, very, very kind of you to sort of point that out as well. Thank you. One last thing. I think we are obviously headed out of the pandemic. So as you look at 2021 and maybe a little beyond, so what's going through your mind? What are you planning? And what are your thoughts of as we come out of COVID?
Look, I'm very grateful that the world has learned a level of resilience and empathy that I think even we did not expect to have. I think, frankly, our children have demonstrated a level of resilience that has been delightful to watch. They have retooled, for kids who used to spend the bulk of their evenings downstairs hanging out with their friends in the open to be locked down for months on end, and they have adapted. And I think that mechanism of adapt and continue to grow is something that I feel privileged to have seen in action throughout the last 1 year. And my hope is that truly the pandemic is on the way down, and that all of us as organizations will stick with the things that we have learned to do better and the way we have learned to serve our customers better, that we'll build upon those. I think there's a ton of opportunity. There is a ton of necessity to work with partners like you guys who are bringing in solutions that sounded very advanced a year and a half ago, but now are sounding like table stakes. Right? We have to have those things. In the absence of those things, we can't function as an effective business. I've had to take 1 million people off the street. Right now, if we don't fill that vacuum with substantially solid digital technological solutions, we cannot sustain our business, let alone grow it. Right. So I think it's with a lot of humility. I have been amazed at my team. They have just done such a fabulous job and continue to do a fabulous job, because everyone, I think in a weird way, the pandemic has brought out the best in everyone as a professional that I engage with. And they are pushing not just themselves, they're pushing our collective thinking, they're pushing my thinking. And that's exactly what we need. They're pushing your thinking. I know the half the things we keep asking you guys to deliver, and you're going, well, we hadn't thought of that, but why not? Right?
No, I think the pandemic did, I think, on balance, bring out the best in most folks, right? So, yeah. So, Prashant, thank you so much. As always, it was incredible speaking to you. Thank you very much for your time.
Our pleasure, Subra, and thank you to you and your team. You've been very valued partners for us and will continue to be so. And I'm sure Miko is going to build something very magical with your team together, and we are going to take that magic and replicate it in a bunch of places. But I really appreciate the kind of partnership that you guys have shown. And for everyone, I'd say don't work with vendors, guys. Life is too short to work with vendors. Work with partners. So Subra will remember that from the first conversation we ever had, where I told him that I never work with a vendor. It's not a good use of our time. We only work with partners. So the passion is what tips the balance, and then we build upon that. And I think it's serving us really well.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And on that note, as perfect note to sort of end both this session and this sort of summit. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we sort of come to the end of the event today. I hope you all can carry away nuggets of insights from today's session. I had a great time sort of moderating some of these sessions. A couple of quick administrative points before we close. This is the first of 3 summits we're holding. The Middle East and North Africa event is scheduled on the 18th of Feb. And the India event is scheduled on the 26th. Registrations are open for both, and we have a stellar set of speakers there as well. So if you or any of your acquaintances are interested, please do ask them to register. I also want to let everyone know that the sessions today have been recorded and will be available on demand after the event. So please watch out for the Lemnisk social channels and website, where we'll sort of be sharing this. You should also get an email. Once again, thank you so much for everyone's time. Thank you once again, Prashant, and everybody that sort of participated in the event today. Have a great evening and stay safe.
Thanks. Bye.